Welcome, Patty. Hi. Awesome. Blessings and blessings. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Dishes with Siobhan, your hostess with the mostest. Oyete Ochikiapo, praise with the people. Sapoki, my given Blackfoot name. With so much to discuss with our amazing guest, Patty Lager, I've invited her back again, and this time to talk about detoxing and its effects on mental health. With environmental toxins at an all-time high, almost equal to the ever-common diagnosis of depression, autism, ADHD, schizophrenia. That's how I feel about it too, boys. Anxiety, bipolar, dementia, ADD, and more. Detoxing is key to mental health. As a diagnosed schizophrenic, most closely connected to overmethylated schizophrenia, I have difficulty with heavy toxins in my body. My nose starts to run as soon as I put makeup on. There's a lot of things connected. And zinc is also most commonly depleted in my body due to the inability to naturally detox, as well as those who do not fit the overmethylated profile. But I'll let Patty talk to you about how to support healthy cells and what it takes to support natural detoxification easier than dedicating days, weeks, or months to a specific cleansing regimen. Hi, Patty. Welcome back to Body, Mind, and Soul Dishes. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, and thank you for having me back again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. There is so much you inspired in me when I reviewed our recording from last time, and I realized you're also a specialist in detox.
I did. I trained with Dr. Robert Morris. He's a naturopath in Florida. I don't know if you've heard of him, but yes, I've taken his level 1 and level 2 detoxification specialist courses, and I actually I taught at one of his courses when I was working down with him in Florida.
Awesome. Robert Morris. Cool. That's exciting. Well, let's get right to it. What are some of the foods or the most common foods and herbs that you recommend for detoxing?
Well, I find that fruit is the most beautiful food to detoxify. I mean, I think that as humans, we are biologically more aligned with being a frugivore. We need to put ourselves in any category, that is. But the fruits are just, I mean, they're so simplistic. They, I think, have the correct ratio when it comes to our biological needs nutritionally. I hear my dogs chewing some weird things. But yeah, they have a really wonderful ratio of, protein to carbohydrate to fat. Obviously, the fruits are very rich in the simple carbohydrates, the monosaccharides, which are our fuel. I mean, we need glucose to run our cells. And packaged with that in the beautiful structured water that glucose and fructose and sometimes sucrose is dissolved in, packaged in that water, are all of these beautiful phytonutrients. But I find many of the fruits, when I'm working with them to help my own clients cleanse, they're just beautiful. They're beautifully cleansing. They help to pull, residue and congestion out of the interstitial spaces. And once that is freed up, our organs can then breathe again. They can receive the oxygen, they can receive nutrition, and they can get rid of their waste products more effectively. And so just simplifying life and focusing on, a diet rich in fruit is very cleansing. And that's really for detoxification specifically. And then there's, phases within helping someone progress through this. I think that after you detoxify, then there's a rebuilding phase. And that's where I think the greens come in. The greens are beautiful in their ability to help people build up and regenerate. There's, greens are quite cleansing as well, but, they definitely are a little bit more protein rich compared to the fruits. So, I do foundationally focus on diet and do, specific cleanses, or recommend them anyway, with the people that I work with. And then herbs are beautiful because, herbs are food, they're plants, and they, the ancient shamans who had this intuitive, clairvoyant knowing of what each herb was best suited for when people came to them for healing. I mean, they just went within and they would know this plant is good for this ailment. They just knew it. We've lost that, unfortunately. In our mental state, we don't have that intuitive, clairvoyant knowing anymore. But, these foods passed on from our ancestors and how they worked, in the past, I think there is still beautiful ways they can help heal today. And, many herbalists, many shamans, even today, most of the shamans don't call themselves shamans, but they are. They know, and they recommend these. And I can't say, that I have that internal knowing. That's something, I'm still working on spiritually to be in that type of alignment. But, I do follow what people like Dr. Robert Morse, my personal mentor, have taught me with regards to the herbs.
Awesome. Oh, that's so terrific. Like when, you were talking about how the steps, starting with the fruits and doing the detoxing and then moving into the vegetables and helping to rebuild the body and, the phytonutrients and the essential fats and, as far as, the considerations of adding these, these foods and herbs, and whether they're superfoods or herbs to your wellness routine, what are some of those things that people should consider? Like, is it ideal to go to a specialist as yourself who's been trained, or there's also shamans that are around that they can connect with to tap into that? Would you suggest that, or as someone who just wants to start supporting a healthier lifestyle?
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely things that we can do. I mean, it's an individual basis. Somebody that may not feel optimal, maybe they just know they don't have the energy they used to. You can investigate these things on your own. I guess it was maybe 12 years ago when I first, I want to say got back on this path, because I kind of knew about it, but I never really embraced it completely. And about 12 years ago, I decided to do some detoxing, and I didn't use any herbs. I just basically went on a fruit diet. I ate nothing but fruit for 6 months, and it was tough at the beginning. And I think I eliminated so strongly that it put me in a lot of healing crises. And I was doing it on my own, so I didn't really know how to navigate those waters. I will say that when I've embarked on such a kind of rigorous program again later on, the herbs did help me eliminate more completely, so that these toxins weren't kind of percolating in my bodily fluids and causing, major pains and, the nausea that do come along with the healing crisis. But if you're somebody that is chronically ill and you want to take a more natural path to your healing, or perhaps you went to the traditional orthodox medical doctors and they're just not giving you the reprieve that you're desperately seeking, I think it is helpful to have somebody that kind of knows what the detoxification experience is all about. And then they can give you guidance. They can say, yeah, this is normal, or maybe this is not normal, and having someone like that to lean upon. And I think taking advantage of nature in the form of not only diet, but the herbs, and even, Bach flower remedies, homeopathic remedies, these can be very balancing as well, as somebody is kind of going through this journey, and that's what I call it. It is a spiritual journey, and I think that these illnesses don't come to us for any other reason other than to help our growth as a human. I mean, we attract these illnesses because we need to learn certain karmic lessons. And as we progress through this and we heal ourselves, we get to that level where we can then be the true human that we were meant to be.
Awesome. That is so key. I love that you brought in the flower essences and the subtlety of our astral bodies that that are so affected by the world that we're living in, the living earth.
Yes.
Body. So that's awesome. All right. When do you recommend? Well, recommending it, detoxing as part of a lifestyle. You brought up chronic illness and chronic fatigue and these other things. What do you recommend, or when do you recommend detoxing? Outside of those realms. Just for lifestyle change and.
Well, I think there are times when I think most of us know we need to do something different because what we're doing isn't working. And so just listening to that intuition and letting your body feel drawn to a detoxification can be something that, helps us connect with our inner wisdom. I know there's a lot, and I don't have an expanded amount of knowledge about this, but I know there are ways to work with the seasons, to work with the cycles of the moon that will enhance your detoxification experience. One of the, I think, great minds that wrote a lot about this is Rudolf Steiner, and he was just such a Renaissance man of his time, where he not only focused on medicine, but also on education and nature and agriculture. And he kind of had that clairvoyant knowing. He was a shaman. He knew kind of when was it best to allow the body to go through certain experiences if you're going to do it therapeutically. But I think that everybody, is different. And so many of us just don't know we need to detoxify. And, a lot of people live with animals, dogs, cats. Some of them have been hijacked by the, allopathic and kind of devitalizing foods. So they might not have that internal knowing, but an animal in the wild, they know when to rest. They know when they need to just stop and maybe hibernate for a while or fast for a while to let their bodies heal. So that's just something I think we need to get back to. And it's just also, healing with nature is the most deepest and most therapeutic healing, because nature heals holistically. It's not targeting one organ or one part of your body. It's going into the whole body, the whole physical body. But as you mentioned, we heal not only the physical body, we heal the etheric body, we heal the astral body. We have, levels of who we are that we can't see, but they are influencing our state of health. And, so I think it has to be a lifestyle because it's part of our journey. And, there's no good time for any single person, but it's just something intuitively. And so that's how I would answer that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. The understanding of all the modalities that can help prepare us for doing something that is quite invasive. There's that's wonderful for all of those different, the etheric, which is more our emotional body, our how we react to the world around us, the astral body, which is our deeper programming that is, more our harmonics and our chakras and the patterns that have been put into us. And I love that. I was told I was crazy for a long time for believing in that stuff, and it's very wonderful to know that it is a part of healing everything. And yeah, that's so exciting. You mentioned Rudolf Steiner,
Mhm.
and you mentioned him last time as being this like incredible, insightful guru to just ourselves and living in harmony with the living world. And that is, yeah, that is so exciting. I've never read anything of his, so I'm yeah, I'm definitely going to now. So
Yes, he's got a wisdom that I think is very valuable. And I came across Steiner again about 12 years ago. Actually, it was David Wolf who first brought up his name when I kind of got into um, the herbs and detoxification. And I remember looking him up and like, who is this guy? I do not understand anything he's saying, but things unfold and things come back again, and then you are in a place where you can understand it. But yes, I do recommend his works highly.
that is so wonderful. With all of this, all of these levels of taking care of ourselves, um, I've kind of gone like very left brain on one side of the spectrum, and have found this project called Self Decode, and this amazing kind of he calls himself self-tact, and he did a lot of, you know, his own journey into understanding the variants of our genetic codes and foods that can support them. And although he's still kind of young in the development of such, the extensiveness of understanding our gene therapy possibilities. I was just wondering, do you have any experience with that, genetic coding and understanding the variants, and I've heard you talk about the telomers of our DNA codes. So when we're reproducing our cells in that messenger RNA, where it's duplicating itself with whatever telomere health that we've been able to bring to the cellular reproduction. Um, but as far as going like one specific gene to a specific diet plan, or have you ever looked into that or had any interest in that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of traditional education in gene expression. In graduate school, I took prokaryotic and eukaryotic gene expression, and I understand how it works. I guess one of the things I find after understanding how genes are expressed, I also came across people like Bruce Lipton, who are into epigenetics and how things outside of the cell influence genetic expression in the cell. So, I find when I read that, I found that to be more congruent with my holistic view of nature. So, you know, I remember also when I was in medical school and then graduate school, the big thing at the time was we're going to code the entire human genome. And I remember at the time they thought, oh, there must be hundreds of thousands of genes because we have so many different protein expressions of those genetic instructions. And it turns out there's only about 25,000 genes in the human genome that they at least found. I think that a lot of it is alternative splicing, which is giving perhaps, a more varied, abundant number of proteins that we have in our body. But yeah, gene expression is, I think, something that, we have to be very careful with. Again, when I come back to this holistic view of who the human being is, I see that there are, some schools of thought that have used tidbits of what we have found in science as a way to, create fear and to control humanity. And I think, the germ theory and the gene theory are two of them. Now, that doesn't not mean that there are not, wise souls out there looking at genes and how they can be influenced. I mean, if we look at epigenetics again, what factors can come to the cell to trigger a certain gene to be expressed or to not be expressed. I mean, obviously, we've all heard that some people have the gene for, this ailment, like for breast cancer, you have the gene for this ailment. Mm-hmm. Not everybody that has that gene will express the protein from that gene. As you mentioned, it goes from the DNA to the messenger RNA to the protein. That's, the central dogma of how we express what's in our gene. You're not always going to turn that gene on and express it. And so there are factors outside that I think are more of an influence than you just having the gene and, creating this self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to get this disease. So I try not to put too much credit to the gene theory. I think that, in allopathy, again, they're very much intertwined with the pharmaceutical companies, and the pharmaceutical companies, they have one agenda, and that's to sell more drugs. So if they can find a gene and hook it with a drug, they are more likely to, promote that theory. And that goes along with the germ theory, which you're probably aware of, kind of the alternative way of describing that, which is kind of the biological terrain, that we attract things to our tissues. And perhaps the bacteria wasn't there first to cause the illness, but there was a certain congestion or a lack of function in an organ or tissue. And then the beautiful microbe came to that site simply to help us break it down so we can build something new and better. So there are different ways of looking at things, but, as you mentioned with using, and I think you sent me that link for the DNA for the gene, the person you're talking about. Unfortunately, I opened it up this morning and then had to feed the dogs and all of that. So I didn't get to read it as much as I would have liked to. But, I think that, it's good to see people, and, I trust your intuition. If this person is working with gene expression and using diet as a way to perhaps affect gene expression, I think that's a great thing to go into. We need more wisdom in these areas of science so that they're not used as a way to control and create fear, but they're used in a way that can actually help humanity and, help us ascend out of, just being completely always in the physical, because there's so much to do in the spiritual realms that we have not even become aware of. There's so much potential, and I want to see us kind of go more in that direction.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. Yes, that is exactly why I brought him up, and why I'm quite excited about, this self-decoded and what Joe Cohen is doing with his team. It's it is exactly, it's kind of giving us one piece so that we can do what Bruce Lipton is talking about and check in with our cycle of how is our environment, and, what are the proteins, and this balance that we're creating in the middle. And, over the long run, there's the potential for doing multiple check-ins and seeing when, we've had that lifestyle change in over 2 years, or 10 years, and we can see, through that self-awareness, how we're affecting ourselves. And maybe we'll, open up the potential for being like, oh, the people who are more prone to being shaman, they have this incredible, they have this variant in their genes that, helps, that we've been able to track and be able to see, and that way we can empower each other. And it's kind of, a schizophrenic in the Amazon would be told they're destined to be a shaman. So you know what, you're going to go and sit with the medicine people. So go sit with the medicine people. And I don't believe that, self-decode would look at that variant and say, go be a shaman. He'd probably be like, you're schizophrenic. Here, maybe these are options you can do to take care of yourself. But, understanding, as far as being a schizophrenic and over-methylated, it means that I have higher copper levels and lower zinc usually have a zinc deficiency, and checking in to see if those are really huge effects is really promising and exciting for me, because although it is a little different, um, compared to the allopathic world that goes, you're schizophrenic, here, take this take this drug and believe that you'll be healing yourself. It That's never proven to be true in anyone that I've ever met. So
well, I commend you for, finding light in this knowledge that you have found. And I think that the DNA molecule is such a magical molecule that, I think it's wonderful that there are people looking at it in that alternative view. And with that said, I think that a diagnosis like schizophrenia, I think that perhaps if we were in a more enlightened society, yes, these would be the people that we would be going to for healing, because they are the connected ones. I know, someone very close to me that suffers schizophrenia. And, it's just the things they tell me, what they know, their experiences, I'm flabbergasted by. So I commend you, and I hope that this is something I'm going to look into what this person has to say, because I can see, in your life that this is something very powerful.
Yeah, it makes me think of it was Plato who said there's the gift of collective consciousness is one of the greatest gifts that we could ever have. And in the context that he was talking about it, he was talking about hearing each other's voices and being in each other's minds, and having this it was, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, he's talking about schizophrenia. and it was at a time where there is so much fear, and it's kind of what's happening in our world now. They're trying to make everybody think the same, because certain people want to be in power, and they want to continue doing what they've been doing because it's given them power, and they've known that it's a way to disrupt people's sense of self. And in the gift of that, it's also bringing us together so that we can sit down and talk and go, okay, what is really true to us, outside of the television in the box that's talking at us rather than talking with us. And
I know, Plato's time, and Rudolf Steiner talks about this quite a bit. During that time, I think humans were different, and they were more open to those influences from the outside, from, I don't know if you want to call it space, or from the higher self, but more people were clairaudient and clairvoyant back in those days. And I think that through an agenda that I can't pinpoint, but they're turning that off in humanity. And the few souls that still have those abilities are being demonized. They're being told, oh, we need to drug you so that you stop having that experience. Mm-hmm. And it's just so sad. I think that humanity needs to rise up, and we need to look at certain human experiences as something not to suppress, but as, to look at more carefully. And what is the purpose of that? And why are these souls still here? So I agree with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty. That gives me hope. And, there's so many amazing things happening around here, like psychedelic therapies and, people fighting, patenting that capability that has been going on in indigenous communities for, thousands and thousands of years. So, I commend you for being such, an integral piece in receiving the knowledge that is, not just from the, logical left side of our minds, but also the creative and opening up to the possibilities our heart is a dam, not a pump.
Yes, you've got it, 100%.
Yes. And I thank you so much. And I look forward to connecting with you again. And, before we go, two things. If there was one food that you could say, this will help you get on that path. Like I love seaweed as far as being like, a key food to, to be like, this does a little bit of everything. and you can also get sea salt from it. So yeah.
One food, oh my goodness. I think the beauty of fruits and vegetables is the variety. But if I had to limit myself to one, I'd probably pick something like grapes. Grapes are just, purple is the, seventh chakra, and I think they do help with intuition. They're just beautiful foods. I often recommend grape cleanses for people.
That is so cool. Okay, awesome. All right. Do you have any quotes from Rudolf Steiner that you could share with us? Do you remember anything? Or?
I just know, I don't know if I have like a quote that I could come up, that I've memorized or anything like that, but gosh, unfortunately, I don't want to discredit his genius, so I don't want to misquote him, but all I can say is read his works. There's this person I listen to sometimes, and it helps me fall asleep at night when I'm listening. But there's a YouTube channel called Rudolf Steiner Archives, and there's this man with this beautiful voice just reading his works, and it's just amazing. So yeah, he is someone that I think all of us would benefit from as we're, struggling to ascend out of this current oppressive state that we're all finding ourselves in right now. And many people are waking up because of it. So there is, that, but.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I'm doing a little talk on kefir today. So with my village prep group, we get together and buy superfoods and organics and make meals out of it. And yeah, it's super exciting. So, and we're like outside of the realm of the COVID stuff because we're doing like a business. So
good for you.
Yeah, so it's super exciting. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you again and, completing your anatomy and physiology class and all the other things that you have to offer that are coming up with UXL and the Body Mind Institute. And yeah, I'll definitely be checking in with natural health law and everything that you help to nurture in my mind. And it's yes, I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
All right, Patty, until next time, have a wonderful time, wonderful life. Blessings and blessings.
Thank you. Bye.
Until next time.